Now, you guys know that one of the big hot things out there right now is the movie Obsession. It's, of course, rattled the world. This little horror film that could. I mean, listen, I became enamored with it when I saw the trailer for it, because we were amongst the first people that got to see a trailer for it, and I became enamored with it almost immediately. Now, of course, the big narrative surrounding it right now is that it was a movie that cost under $1 million to make and has, as of right now, made somewhere in the neighborhood of like $250 million, which, if a Star Wars movie is considered a flop, but this is a movie they made for under $1 million. And it's kind of changed the narrative on a lot of things. However, mo money, mo problems is what my mom always used to say. And now even Obsession has become not insulated from a little bit of controversy surrounding it. There's this story that is out here right now about Sally Choi.
Oh, I seem to have lost it.
Oh, let's try that again. Sally Choi, who was officially titled the art director on Obsession. And she chronicles in not a whiny way. Let me be very clear about that. Not at all in a whiny way at all. Okay. But she chronicles the fact and laments a little bit publicly that, she worked on this movie for $300 a day, roughly.
For 3 weeks.
For 20 days. She says 20 days. And she made a grand total after taxes, $6,700.
Pretty good.
She made, which ain't bad. I mean, if you extrapolate that over a full 30-day month and you consider what she must have been paid pre-taxes, that's probably making over 10 grand a month still. And now she's sitting back and looking at this movie that has made over $250 million. And while she doesn't, again, I want to make sure we're clear about this. She clearly upfront says right in her writings, hey, listen, I knew that was the rate. I agreed to that rate before I started. It's not like they scammed me. We negotiated. I agreed to the salary I was going to get to work on this movie, and I did it. So she's totally upfront about that, okay? Let me be clear. And she doesn't in her writing start whining about, I demand they give me more money. But the implied thing is there, right? That, hey, it sure would be nice if they gave me some more money. As a matter of fact, Jonathan and I were talking about this before the show started today. There were some people who worked on this little indie film who volunteered.
Yep.
Got no money to do this.
Yeah, as soon as I heard 750,000, this crew got paid peanuts or less.
Yeah, peanuts or less indeed. And so it's got a lot of people kind of talking now about whether or not somebody like this movie should be paying more to the people who were involved in doing it. And this is a question that comes up a lot, Rob, actually, when we discuss big movies and you find out what some people made about. I guess this is a below the line person, not one of the actors, not one of the directors and stuff like that. And quite often I find that public sentiment is give them more money, which I'm not against. I'm not against at all. But it also raises a question for me, Rob, about why should somebody like the art director, who, as she was very honest and upfront about, mentioned, hey, I worked for the rate I agreed to work for, which is more than what most people make. Granted, working in the film industry like this is very, feast or famine. Sometimes you got work, sometimes you don't have work. And you got to make the money that you make stretch a little bit further. That's the reality of the film business. But there's this notion out there that, somebody like this should get paid more. And my position on this has always been very unpopular. Very, very unpopular. But I nonetheless, while I'm open to having my mind changed, I still haven't heard a good argument against this. If they made this movie Obsession and it tanked, would that art director have given some of her money back to soften the blow for whoever maxed out their credit cards to make their movie? Somebody maybe loses the second mortgage on their house, or a bigger company takes a substantial loss. Does anybody involved who got paid money, guaranteed money, give any of it back? In other words, did they assume any financial risk in making the movie? And the thing is, no. If this movie tanked and everybody lost their shirts, she still made $6,700 for 20 days of work. And there's always been this thing for me is like the people who risk are the ones who should reap rewards. As a matter of fact, I did a little bit of research on this. Let's take a look at this as we step inside the Campea classroom. So, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Statistically, this comes to us from Entertainment Law Resources. Statistically speaking, the reality of independent filmmaking is incredibly bleak. According to film industry data, tracking studies, and distribution analytics, get this, guys, only about 1% to 3% of all independent feature films ever turn a profit for their investors. That means a staggering 97 to 99% of all indie films lose money, or at best barely break even after years of trying to recoup their costs. So that means this year, if you go onto the set and visit the set of 100 indie films being made that somebody had to put up the money to make, on average, 98 of those 100 are going to lose those people money. Maybe all their money. Maybe just a bump in a bigger financier's thing. But a lot of these indie films are not made with the backing of major financial backers. I have people coming to me all the time asking me I don't know why they think I have the money to do this, but I have people coming to me all the time, Rob, asking me if I want to finance their new film.
Okay, I will stop. Geez, you didn't have to make it public.
Yeah, I thought that was private conversation, John. And so that's the reality of making these things. So I've always thought this. If you are a crew member of a movie and you want to stand to benefit in case the movie blows up, well, there's two different things you can do. Let's go over here. Two things you can do, but they both involve you taking a risk. Number one, defer. You remember that movie Once? We were just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That won the Oscar for that song, Falling Slowly, right? All that kind of stuff. Famous story about this. The director who made it, who just now made that Nick Jonas,
Power Ballad,
Paul Rudd
which is
movie,
terrific.
Power Ballad, which
Terrific
you
movie.
really liked. He didn't take a director's salary for it. He put a lot of his own money into it. And he asked a bunch of the crew members to work for free on deferred payment, saying, hey, if we do well, you'll get to reap the rewards of that. Not all of them did it, but a bunch of them did. That movie was one of the 1%. And it was made for like $200,000, went on to make $25 million and win an Academy Award. And apparently all those people got rewarded. But they got rewarded because they took a risk. Because they risked, and by the way, stupid risk. Considering 98% of these movies never make their money back. Stupid risk. But if you're a crew member and you want to not just get paid, but you want to stand to reap some of the big rewards if it does do well, the first option you have is to defer. There's a second option you have. Negotiate points. You can say to them, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll do this, and you pay me X salary, and I want 0.25% of any net profits. Here's the trick, though. If you're going to negotiate points, let's say you would have got a $6,000 fee for a month of work. If you negotiate points, the producer is going to want to pay you just say $4,000. It's like, okay. You want 0.25% on any net profits. Okay. Then up front, you got to be willing to take less money. So again, whether you are deferring or whether you're negotiating points, you are putting yourself in a situation where you yourself have to take a financial risk. But by putting yourself in a situation where you're taking a financial risk on the project, you stand to reap benefits if it works out. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hims. You know, one of the hardest things about trying to lose weight is just figuring out what actually works. Because we've seen them all. There are a million trends, diets, and gimmicks out there. And honestly, it can get overwhelming. And that's why weight loss by Hims really stands out. Hims now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever and only GLP-1 available in a pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. And the process is extremely convenient. Everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication gets delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/Campea to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/Campea. hims.com/Campea. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required, fee not included, and billed separately. Weight loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk A.S. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com. But then again, Rob, as you and I know, who have both made independent film, 98% of these films never make money. So if you are a below the line crew worker, are you going to take the $6,000 or are you going to take the $4,000, $2,000 less in the 2% chance that the indie film you're working on might blow up and you might make $20,000? I think I'd probably just take the $6,000. I don't know. That's me.
I would feel it's based on genre and what's hot right now. I would definitely do some calculus in this. If you're saying this is a horror film, I'm like, I might take that risk. If you're saying this is like a romance, I'm like, just give me the $6,000.
Yeah. And again, to me, it's just the principle of, unless you stand to lose money if the project bombs, why shouldn't just the people who did stand to lose money reap the rewards? And so that's kind of how I see. Now, of course, Rob, this opens another, like a totally separate discussion about how much these people get paid, period, and in general, but that's a completely different discussion devoid of this. And it's important for us to keep in mind that obsession is a lightning 3 times in a bottle situation. This is a rare thing that ever happens. So I don't know, Rob, what's your take on this whole situation?
Well, I did a whole show on this yesterday and did a real deep dive into all of this. Now, there is a recent movie that did have a profit sharing, and it was Sing Sing, the Coleman Domingo movie.
Yes, yeah.
So Sing Sing was an See, when you make a movie, you form an LLC. Every movie has its own LLC company. And there are the people that are the officers of that company, and how they did the split was everybody was favored nations. Every single person on the movie, the director, Coleman Domingo, all the crew, all got paid the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. And then they had a pool, and the pool was 40% of any return immediately went in to pay out the crew, and 60% went to pay out the investors. And when the investors got 120% of their money back, so they got their 100% investment plus 20%, then it switched to a 50-50 pool where the investors were put in the pool and all the crew members were put in the pool, and they split the money.
That's pretty lucrative.
It was pretty good. That movie cost $2 million to make, and it returned worldwide about $5.5 million. So you can look at, not many people got rich. Very interesting way to do it.
Yeah.
But like you pointed out, in the last 30 years, in terms of horror films, you had Blair Witch, you had Paranormal Activity, and you had Obsession. That's it. I thought Obsession was going to be a biopic of the Human League. Boy, was I surprised. But so I go in.
That's a deep cut, Rob.
There you go.
That's a deep cut.
But when you look at this, this girl talked about in her post that she also wanted to try and flip this movie and go union. When I heard that, I lost sympathy for her. I am a huge fan of union Hollywood productions, but a $750,000 movie that was made, Curry Barker will tell you that he was going to make this, probably put it up on YouTube because of his first movie. And the idea was that there's a lot of people that think they're going to get rich quick, and that I think, and this was 2 years ago, everybody knows you have to think about, like you pointed out, John, the 3 times it's happened, but you also have to think about how this business works. Now, the one great thing about movie making is when you work on
let me interrupt just because I think it's important for everybody to get what you're saying here, to give you the context of this. In her writings, this art director regrets that they didn't flip the production of Obsession. Now, what is flipping a production? Let's go back over to the classroom for a second here. If you read that where she's saying, oh man, I kind of wish we had flipped the production, but they talked me out of it. Okay, flipping the production is when the crew votes to flip a non-union production into a union production. Now, the consequences of that is that if you turn a non-union production into a union production, well, all of a sudden there are a whole lot more sets of rules and a whole lot more money that needs to be spent. Now, the 2 of the 3 projects I have made have been distinctly labeled as non-union productions because I couldn't afford to do it by union measures, right? One of them I did do by union measures. My movie, The Anniversary, I did by union scale, but the budget was so low it fell under their micro budget thing. So not small budget, but micro budget thing. And so it was fine. It worked. So, but the problem is if they do that, there have been examples of crews that have decided to flip a production from a non-union thing halfway through production into a union production, and the films have just shut down.
This would have.
Now, the folks over at The Wrap wrote this about it. If you take a look at this, they said, if a movie, this was written in The Wrap a while ago, if a movie was budgeted so tightly that it cannot absorb union rates and benefits, producers may suspend or abandon the project rather than continue under a union contract. Industry guides specifically note that some productions choose to shut down and regroup when they cannot meet the new labor requirements. Now, that doesn't happen most of the time. Like a lot of the times they adapt to the new union rules. Some of the times they just renegotiate. Some of the times they just replace a bunch of the crew. And some of the times they just shut the whole production down. And so sorry, Rob, I just thought it was important to give that context so people understand what
incredibly
you're talking
important. But you know what? This girl because I read all of her statements, she didn't talk about her production designer. That's essentially the boss on her movie. She didn't talk about any of her other crew members.
She didn't blame anybody.
No, but she just talked about herself. And I'm like, well, what about the rest of the crew? You know, the other crew that contributes. I don't mean to denigrate this, but she's the art director that works for a production designer. Never mentioned the production designer. Never mentioned, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. My whole problem with this kind of thinking is it's Monday morning. You know, I called my friend up after I read this story and I go, dude, remember in 2009 when you wanted me to buy Bitcoin and it was like 0.000025 a coin? I think you should give me that deal again. I'd really like to have that Bitcoin deal you offered me back in 2009. You know what he said? No. And I just think that the idea is if you agree to work on a project, it's like what Bob Sugar said in The Great Jerry Maguire. It ain't show friends, it's show business. And you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And she agreed to do a job, probably signed a contract for a certain fee. And look, if you want to bet on that or you want to have a deal, you want to talk to the producers and say, look, I'd like to, like you pointed out, I'd rather get paid $4,000 for a percentage point. Great. You do that up front. You don't get to retroactively decide to change things when a movie is that 1 or 2% that becomes wildly successful. What you should be looking to do is build a career in the business. If you work for a movie that suddenly has this kind of success, suddenly your value as a crew member exponentially increases. And then suddenly, not only does your value exponentially increase, but so does every one of your crew members. And if you had a great experience working with somebody, Curry Barker is he has already made his second film. Now, I'm wondering, did he use the same art department? Does he have the same production designer? Did she get to work on that second movie and make a little bit more money? With obviously it had more things going on in it. So I don't know if she did or not, but already he's on a meteoric rise that you could have been hitched to that rocket. And then that's how careers are built. It was her first feature.
Yeah, by the way, I do want to point out that after I read through all of the stuff she wrote, and to me the tone of it was more in like less whining.
Yeah, it wasn't hostile.
Yeah,
No.
It wasn't hostile. It was more in line of, I really think we need to look at the way we do this. Like, so, I mean, I want to give full credit. I want to give full credit. She never threw anybody on the bus.
No.
She never called anybody out specifically. She completely upfront said, hey, this is what I negotiated when I did. I just think we need to look at this whole situation. But again, I just don't know that other than doing one of those two, doing something that puts you in a position of financial risk as well, deferring payment or negotiating points for a lesser salary.
Yeah.
I don't know that we even should have a way where it's like, hey, you get all your money no matter what. And if the film bankrupts people, you get to keep all your money. But if the film does well, you get to get extra. I just don't know that without you taking financial risk, there's a way to do that.
Well, that's the easiest way to deal with this issue is to have every one of these people try and go out and finance their own independent movie and make one. Because that's the only way people are going to understand that it's a lot easier said than done. And I think the Sing Sing model, there's a great article, I linked it in the description of my own show I did yesterday, about how the structure of Sing Sing was built and how they were able to pay everybody off. Really interesting. And I don't remember, it was a website I'd never read before, but it's really worth reading.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. Even the darling obsession can't escape all the controversy. What do you think about this? It is a big issue about, should people who work on a movie stand to profit more from the movie if in the very rare, especially in indie films, in the very rare case where it actually is profitable? I don't know. What do you think a solution is? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.